Slowpoke has 4 unique evolutions based on how Shellder bites its body. But what would Slowpoke evolve into if another Pokemon latched onto its body? Hey everyone, it's Dusty Go-Go. Welcome back to my headcanon. We've created 5 new Pokemon to showcase this theory. Let's take a look at the first design, and then we can jump into the theory and the lore behind Slowpoke. Professor Corey, welcome. I'm so excited to see these new designs that you've created.
Hey Dusty, how's it going? So our first one here is of Slowpoke and Joltik.
This is a Joltik evolution. It's called Slowbolt, and it's psychic and electric. Right, so Joltik is based on a tick and a spider. We see Joltik on its back. It just kind of swells up. Its back looks like a plasma ball.
And I was kind of thinking of it being sort of like a plasma bulb, or just like a churning dynamo of electricity. Almost like it's storing it there. So it's like the ability to drain electricity, and then it would be stored in Joltik for later, sort of thing.
Its dex entry says that it is too small to generate its own electricity, so it attaches itself to larger Pokemon and feeds off their static electricity. That makes total sense with your design here. Slowpoke is that Pokemon. Maybe what it is that Slowpoke has just ever-changing DNA and is able to adapt to whatever Pokemon decides that Slowpoke is now a host.
From what we've seen from the existing forms, it definitely has that flexibility. Yeah, I imagine it would have that sort of adaptable change. Like, for example, this one here, I've given it essentially vampire teeth for being able to suck out and absorb electricity, which the Joltik needs because it can't generate its own.
So it says that Joltik often prefers to jump on a Yamper's hindquarters. I bet it would do it with Manectric.
You'd have to think that it would do that to like any electric Pokemon it could get onto. And you could also see it kind of like jumping almost like a flea, like hopping from Pokemon to Pokemon. Like, I'm tired of this one, I'm going to piggyback on someone else till I find another.
But like in this situation, right, like I feel like their fate is kind of sealed. I would agree that a Joltik or a tick, right, they'll suck blood until they're full, fall off, and then find another host. But I don't think Joltik's gonna do that if it bites onto a Slowpoke.
Nah, that would probably be fairly permanent. I kind of imagine this one to be kind of like rushing up to foes, particularly electric ones, to drain them of their electricity. So just rushing up to bite them and attack them. The speed would be related to Joltik's energy rather than Slowpoke's energy.
I do think it's important to better understand Pokemon evolution, specifically how Slowpoke undergoes evolution. I think this is going to help us better understand the next 4 designs. So a good place to start is to define what evolution is in the Pokemon universe. Obviously, evolution in the real world is a very slow process of, gene selection. A species will change over time. In the Pokemon universe, evolution actually functions a lot more like metamorphosis, right? It's a very sudden change. And I also think anytime a Pokemon undergoes some sort of form change, it's all the same energy. It's all the same science. It's all the same magic. It's all the same evolution. So whether a Pokemon is being exposed to a held item, a Shellder is biting onto its tail, or it is in a new location in a new region to then trigger an evolution, this is all the same phenomenon. But Slowpoke is very unique. It evolves based on a symbiotic relationship with a Shellder, and it doesn't even look like Shellder, right? That's the other huge mystery here. It's like, what the heck is this Pokemon?
Exactly. And I think you could kind of like describe Pokemon evolution as a whole as a transference of infinity energy that essentially determines Pokemon typings and also their power levels. And so if we take like standard evolution by leveling up, usually you could see that as like, well, a Pokemon already has a certain amount of infinity energy. As they get stronger, they get more of it, and that leads to a physical change. If you have evolution items and you apply that to the right Pokemon, then they absorb that extra energy and it almost forces a transformation on them. Could be a similar thing with trading. Again, you're forcing almost unnatural connections of infinity energy, which can cause Pokemon to evolve in different ways than they would in the wild. So it kind of makes me wonder whether the symbiotic relationship between Shellder and Slowpoke is a very similar thing, where it's a case of, for some reason, when Shellder comes in contact with a Slowpoke, there's this transference of energy that forces both of them to evolve in unique ways.
All right, let's move on to the next Pokemon. This Slowpoke evolution is called Slowshroom, and it's going to be water and grass type. Slowpoke in Paris? This is so cool.
Yeah, this was a real fun one to put together. Because of Paris essentially becoming a zombie of sorts, because of the parasite already on its own back. I liked the idea of Slowpoke also shifting into a more zombie-like state.
100%, yeah. And we do see that a little bit with Galarian Slowking.
And I thought for this one though that it would be good to drop the psychic typing, because I don't imagine a zombie having very good psychic powers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the mushroom has destroyed its brain entirely.
And I kind of imagine this one as well to be like the Paris latched on initially, but now the Paris is nothing but a shell, and it's actually just the mushroom that's slowly taking over. And a lot of the real-world parasitic plants, it's just controlling an insect or something with the sole purpose of spreading itself elsewhere.
From one of Parasect's dex entry states, removing the mushroom will cause Parasect to stop moving. Even if you were to try to remove the mushroom from the back of Slowpoke, it might just collapse. Yeah, what type do you think this would be? We established it's not going to be psychic type, so it would remain whatever's left of the water typing. But mushrooms are mostly made of water, though.
Yeah, you could keep the water typing, just like the physicality of it. There is the possibility, though, that like if Slowpoke isn't there and it's literally just the mushroom puppeteering it now, you might eliminate those types completely. So like if you were to keep part of Slowpoke's typing, you could go for like a water grass to represent the mushroom, or water ghost because it's essentially zombified. But you could also go like if you assume that Slowpoke is no longer there and it's just the mushroom puppeteering it, then you do have the potential for creating a new grass ghost Pokemon.
I really like the idea actually of water ghost type, because if you actually switch that around, Slowpoke is psychic water type. Now that it has no mind left, it loses psychic and it becomes a ghost.
Yeah, I think that would suit it really well.
What is it about Slowpoke that causes evolution? Slowpoke likes to fish. Fish are attracted to its tail. However, if a Shellder is attracted to its tail, it just clamps on for dear life.
Yeah, there's a lot of different possibilities for it, eh? The fact that the tail can be removed without causing a problem and that it can grow back, it kind of makes you wonder whether it's like, well, some lizards can lose their tails as a defensive mechanism to stop predators from getting them, but the Slowpoke that we see evolve with the Shellder is one that either didn't go for the bait or one that got a lot more than the part of the tail that was meant to come off. It's not just the tail, it'll also clamp onto its head. And if we look at the Mega form, the Shellder's just consuming it the whole Pokemon.
I think another huge question, the Shellder that we see on the back of a Slowbro or on the head of a Slowking doesn't even look like Shellder or even Cloyster. Funny enough, in Generation 2, we found out that there was a beta Pokemon that looked identical to the Pokemon on the back of Slowbro. Its name was Turban. I think Slowpoke's tail functions as a held item or a consumable evolutionary item for Shelders. Shellder would basically have a split evolution. Normally where the Water Stone will evolve into Cloyster, but if it were to consume a Slowpoke tail, it would evolve into this new Pokemon. I love the idea that both of these Pokemon, Shellder and Slowpoke, are growing together. I believe if another Pokemon bites Slowpoke's tail, its back, its leg, its head, whatever, I do think that there are certain Pokemon that will trigger a response, causing both Pokemon to evolve. I do think, however, there's probably a bunch of Pokemon that this wouldn't happen to. I don't think if a Typhlosion bites a Slowpoke, I don't think anything's going to happen, right?
I kind of think that it'd most likely be first evolution Pokemon like Shellder can bite onto Slowpoke, but we're not going to see a Cloyster.
A first stage Pokemon has a lot of untapped infinity energy, right? All right, let's go to this next Pokemon. So this is Slowpoke and Dewbiter. This evolution is called Slow Marine. It's going to be psychic and bug type. It's like an underwater astronaut. Dewbiter bites onto the head of Slowpoke, and Slowpoke now has this physical crown, but also
essentially the air bubble of Dewbiter expanding to provide oxygen to Slowpoke. Like, even though it's a water type already, I don't really see it as water. I don't really think that Slowpoke could breathe underwater. But this relationship between the two of them provides it basically eternal oxygen to be able to spend most of its time in the depths.
I love what you did with some of the colors on it and some of the details around its hands. It's got this like new webbing all over its body. It even has this like exoskeleton forming on its body, which would explain why it would maybe be like a water bug type.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of like expand the idea of the water type by giving it like the fins and the webbed hands and feet. But then, yeah, to be able to carry that bug type across by giving it kind of like that plating across the back, and also the spines on the back, kind of similar to the crown spines on Dewbiter's new form as well.
I guess this is an example of the parasitic Pokemon, not really changing too much. It is adapting. In opposition to the last 2 Slowpoke evolutions that you showed us, this one actually feels like Slowpoke is winning. This is actually symbiotic, right? Where the other 2 are parasitic. Slowpoke honestly doesn't even look that changed. And this thing keeps the shape of Slowpoke, which is cool, but it's obviously way more mobile.
My thoughts for this one were that it would kind of have that enough mental capabilities to it, and with the new form that it basically becomes really quick under the ocean, that it can navigate. And I was kind of thinking along the lines of like some monster like depictions of mermaids and stuff like that. The speed of them, yeah, you can see that they're very capable and very fast, but they're not necessarily intimidating.
I can imagine it like expanding that bubble to kind of protect it.
Oh, that would be a really cool idea.
Kind of like a force field.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Dude, the Dewpider is so cool.
It actually took a little bit to try and figure out like how to draw its eyes, like figuring out like which way around is its head orientated. And it did come out looking quite evil, and so it was kind of like, it almost felt like they're working together, but the Dewpider has kind of like some alternative motives behind this evolution.
I do appreciate, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but I appreciate that you had the Dewpider bite one of its ears, which is essentially like a limb, right? Rather than biting the center of its head. Shellder normally bites an arm or a tail. So I like that a lot. I really like that. So up next, we have a Slowpoke and Kabuto evolution. This is so cool. When a Kabuto attaches to Slowpoke's head, it evolves into Slow Mirai. This one's going to be water and dark type.
I was really excited to put this one together. I thought Kabuto's shape in general just lends itself to a helmet like so much. I liked the idea of it being that when they fuse, Kabuto's tail essentially extends down the back and kind of like wraps around and locks on. A really cool way to kind of give that like real primal sort of look to it.
Even though this one is more parasitic, because you can, I mean, we haven't gotten into it yet, but like, you know, Slowpoke's got beating red eyes, its skin is turning necrotic. But what this also looks like is we can see Kabuto almost like it's creating a new nervous system for Slowpoke.
Yeah, and I kind of thought with this one as well, like a lot of the others were like, oh, it's this Pokemon attached onto a Slowpoke, but this one here in my mind felt like they fused completely into one Pokemon.
Yeah.
And so it's like the distinguishing between the two of them becomes more difficult because it's like their two minds have interlocked at this point.
All it's missing is some like scythes, you know? Some like Kabutops sights. Tell me about the ears. The ears are like a lot more pointy than what Slowpoke is traditionally. They're still curved, obviously.
Yeah. So when putting this one together, I was thinking, because of a more complete fusion, I wanted Slowpoke to subtly take on some aspects of Kabuto and Kabutops. Sort of like the DNA of the two of them is beginning to merge. So like Slowpoke's eyes becoming like that of Kabuto, and the ears kind of like taking on those spine shapes of Kabuto.
Exactly. So Kabuto, its deck says that underneath the shell is a black space that hides the structure of its main body. This is one of those Generation 1 Pokemon where you don't really get to see what its actual body looks like or whatever it's hiding underneath.
The black void of Kabuto has permeated.
Almost like a curse. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially. And just kind of thinking about it, it'd almost be like Kabuto is a regional variant of Mimikyu. Both of them having black voids hiding something.
Before Kabutops went extinct, it was in the process of evolving into a land dweller, which I think is really cool, right? We see this through a change in its gills and its legs. And then it also says that it uses its sharp scythes to slice enemies and drink their internal fluids. You know, in this case, the incentive for it to latch onto Slowpoke is to drink its internal fluids. Yeah, so are we going to determine this is going to be water ghost type? Again, this is kind of like the zombie. I don't think it would be psychic type necessarily. I guess it could be. It could remain psychic and then get a rock typing. I think that's possible. I don't want to give it the water rock type because I feel like that's almost like, I mean, that's just the same type that Kabutops is. It's not a fossil Pokemon, right? But it's using ancient DNA, right? And then also Slowpoke dies. So it's almost like resurrecting. It's like a Frankenstein, right? You take something that was dead, and then you create something that is now dead.
I definitely think Ghost makes sense. The secondary, the other typing is a bit more difficult because I always see fossil Pokemon as they're part rock type because they're a fossil.
Yeah.
So it's like their DNA is incorrect because like fossils aren't the original creature, they're sediment that's taken that form. So I've kind of always imagined that fossil Pokemon would actually have different types if they were legitimately still alive. So it is difficult.
Let's move on to the next one. This is sick, dude. When a Magikarp bites onto a Slowpoke's tail, both Pokemon evolve together, enter Slow Rage. This is a water and dragon type Slowpoke evolution. But it obviously looks like it was inspired by Gyarados. But that's not Gyarados.
No, it's not. I wanted to kind of bring through almost like a partial Gyarados evolution through the colors, but still keeping a lot of that Magikarp vibe to it. I wanted to...
The whole design looks so fluid. It looks comfortable.
Yeah.
I would say this one looks the closest to a full symbiotic relationship. Magikarp has obviously this is a classic, right? It bit onto Slowpoke's tail out of nowhere. Magikarp comes up, right? It bites its tail, and it enters this like new type of evolution. And it's not Gyarados. That's the coolest thing. So like I want to like know what the Pokemon this is.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it's a split evolution for Magikarp. I wanted to kind of pull a real dragon vibe through it. It's one of the things I really like about the Magikarp Gyarados evolution is that feeling of power and strength.
Yeah.
And looking to try and convey that through how it holds itself, through spikes and spines on it to make it look a little bit more primal, and kind of like darkening the colors up a bit, just to kind of provide that extra intimidation factor.
This Magikarp evolution almost becomes, I mean, like it's actually like an effective tail. I think I can't get over that. I think that's so cool. It also like almost it's like its size was like stunted almost, right? So it still like undergoes evolution, becomes Gyarados, but it's not Gyarados, obviously. I think this is so cool, man. The colors feel like they almost come out of nowhere, but not really. I think you got them from Mega Gyarados.
Yeah, I decided to copy some of the Mega Gyarados colors because it feels that extra little bit primal. Like I liked the idea of this bizarre combination kind of tapping into something a bit more ancient than standard Gyarados. Yeah, being able to kind of like provide this this much smaller serpentine evolution for Magikarp was a lot of fun. I like the idea of someone seeing this coming through the water and just having no clue what it is. It's like you've got this long serpentine body that it just
they're horrified.
Yeah.
But I think this thing actually would be kind of like wicked. I think so. Like this is a Gyarados Dex entry. It says the process of evolution causes a change in its brain structure that is believed to cause its violent nature. Again, because this is a symbiotic relationship, Slowpoke really is going to become like kind of ridiculous, right? It's still got those fangs. It's going to become like kind of a destructive force.
There is also the potential as well of like, despite the fact that it would clearly live in water areas, it could also be a psychic dark type, sort of keeping its high intellect with now the
smart,
dark
doesn't
vengeance.
Yeah. It still looks really intelligent. It looks cunning, right?
Yeah.
This thing looks like it would evolve like this could be like a pseudo legendary.
That would be amazing.
This Pokemon looks so cool, man. Out of all of these, this is the one that like I would want to play around with the most. This is so cool. This video was so much fun to make. Thank you, Corey, for contributing this original art. All of his links will be in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon theories and Fakemon designs. Thank you so much for watching, and good luck hunting.